Hi, Mark here from the Tangent Bound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangent Bound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangent Bound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangentBoundNetwork.com and see if Tangent Bound Network is right for you.
This is a Danger Entertainment podcast. DangerEntertainment.net. Danger Entertainment Podcast Network.
And welcome to the Pittsburgh Nerd Podcast. I'm Sean.
And I'm Ian.
Hey, Ian.
Yeah.
Did you know you could find us on the Danger Entertainment Network?
Danger?
Danger Entertainment. That's right.
Sounds dangerous.
It is. It's a tad bit dangerous. You'd be shocked to find that out. You know, there's a bunch of great podcasts you can find there. Our friends from the History of Bad Ideas podcast, Who to What Now, Besotted Geek. No, they retired. That's right. They retired. But there are a bunch of other great podcasts you can find there, along with us. You know, we're the Pittsburgh Nerd Podcast, and we do pop culture and chili cheese dogs and whatever else floats our fancy.
Yeah.
Check us out.
For sure.
For sure. We're on most podcatchers, so give us a look.
Peace.
Welcome to the podcast from Temperance Town, the sexiest podcast of world renowned. Tony grows a beard to hide his chin, swaps it with Earl so it glistens. Salty, salty language, kings of the sexy frontier. Download the pod, you won't get enough of these dapper chaps talking deadly fluff. In Hobo Gulch they run a homeless mission, clanging and banging with the pentagram of kittens. Salty, salty language, kings of the sexy frontier. They enjoy their whiskey and local craft beer. By Odin's unkempt pubis we give a cheer. Tony's a raccoon when he's booziest. Don't be a savage, be an enthusiast. Salty, salty language, kings of the sexy frontier. On the frozen tundra they call it a lock. Tony likes to masturbate in a sock. Brian pisses rocks cause it feels so great. I still don't know who the fuck is Tate. Salty, salty language, kings of the sexy frontier. The boys will let you know when there's a Spurler. Due to male pattern baldness, they don't wear curlers. Stay salty, people, that's their closing line. And don't forget, have a beer, you'll be fine. Salty, salty language, kings of the sexy frontier. Salty, salty language, kings of the sexy frontier. Salty language.
Good. So did you watch the rest of the... Did you watch the finale?
Wow. I meant to get a small drink and poured all that water right in my face.
Oh, awesome.
Started going up my nose.
You needed a drowning.
I guess, yeah. You know, nothing like ending the day with a good drowning. Yeah, what'd you think of it?
It was, what do you say? You know, it's like, it's nothing like It was an episode in this season,
Yeah.
and it fit. Like listening to you and Tony talk about, the story, the writing and stuff. I was listening today, and I mean, that's basically it. It's like, you know what? I walked away feeling like this. If you don't want to go out and get the book and read the book, then you really don't give a shit about the story. This should make you want to go out and read the fucking book. And hopefully there are books.
Yeah, right.
to read.
Yeah.
At some point. But that was kind of where I left it. I liked everything about it. I like, because, you were talking about red herrings and how the Ari on the white horse was a great red herring because...
Right?
It's perfect,
Okay, really, really quick. One of the funniest damn things to me was Bronn almost had the last word in the show.
Oh, yeah.
And then they had to have the all hail the queen. I'm like, God damn it. I was like, otherwise, I was so hoping it would be the end, because then I would come on and be like, we called it.
Because they're, when they're sitting around and here they are, they're supposed to like literally be the king's council, but they're still exactly who they are. It's still Bronn. It's still Tyrion. It's still, the Onion Knight. It's still all of them, but they're pretending to be this council. That made me laugh when when I just loved how they advanced that bit of from. You nailed it today when you talked about the idea about the movie. It's just like a movie. They truncated it all to get the point across. Yeah. And at the end, when the book gets put down, there was nothing. You're not mentioned.
That was funny. I laughed so hard. That's so funny because for a lot of Tyrion's hubris has been his downfall over and over and over and over. So it was kind of funny that his karmic payment for what he's done is he doesn't exist in history, essentially.
Yeah. When he specifically how they got the new king is everybody loves a story, all this shit.
So good. That's why, honestly, I will say this: when he said stories, and he's like, everyone loves a good story, and I was like, wow, he's going to say Sam. Like, I thought for a second he might say Samwell because he's read all those books and he's charged with finishing the story, and so
I thought I thought it still might be John because of the story, like I was like, oh, that's going to be for the story, but
I'll tell you what, I know a lot of people were really pissed about John and the treatment at the end.
Oh,
it was so perfect.
It was perfect.
Remember we talked a while ago.
We talked exactly about this last week. We said he should be in the north. Yes, absolutely, 100%. That.
I believe you were like, yeah, maybe he'll go off to the wildlings, and I was like, yes, that's exactly what happens.
I love he ends up at the wall, but he goes beyond the wall.
Yeah.
Now the question is that we're not told is, does he go beyond the wall as a member of the Night's Watch?
Good question.
Or as a free man? Or free folk, and that we don't know.
Right. That's true. I didn't even think about that. That's a good point, though, because honestly, it didn't even cross my mind. I was so okay with how his story tied up.
Exactly.
For two reasons. One, he will always question whether he did the right thing. That's so Jon Snow. That he did what he thought was right, but he wasn't sure because you couldn't tell yet,
He needed to, because of the fact that he decided to forego his being the rightful heir and all that, right? I mean, he just flat out said, nope, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Therefore, there had to be consequences for his actions. There had to be this, and
really, you look at it, it's like, he did kill the queen. He should be punished.
He did.
He did.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if he's the rightful heir. He still committed murder.
Right. Even if his punishment was you lose your claim, basically, kind of a thing or something.
Yeah, exactly. The part where, the whole thing with where they had all of a sudden, here's all, here's here's all the lords and the, rulers of all the realms. And, sitting around, it was just so neat to see who it was that was there, because
Right? I thought it was cool too.
yeah. And because it's everyone that was nobody that's been given title.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. I thought it was great. And then when, the whole idea of it being Bran and that he can't have children, and I'm like, okay, that's great. I love the part where they laughed at Sam for talking about voting. You're like, oh, why don't we?
That was funny.
That was great.
What's really funny about that is that's been a fan theory after the season started more so, but it was a little bit before. I believe that was kind of a deliberate thumb at the fan theory thing, but that was the right move. Because at that time, well, if we were putting this within our historical contexts,
yeah,
that would have been laughed at the time. Like, what are you talking about? Like we have all these people claim to the rules. We're not going to let the savages vote,
exactly.
kind of thing.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So I was like, that's totally appropriate. I can live with that.
That was a great comic moment, but the best was when it hit Sansa and she was just silent. And I was like, what is she going to do? And when she said it, I was like, yes.
What was funny is I'm sitting there and I'm going, say no, just because I thought it would be, well, first of all, I knew it would piss so many people off, but she did say no, or she didn't say no to him being king, but basically like, I'm not bending a knee to you is what she said, which I thought was fun.
She said the truth, which is everybody in the North, no one's going to bend the knee to anybody anymore.
No.
They've done it and they've been burned so many times, which means she knows her people better than anybody.
Yeah.
And she deserves to be queen of the North all the way to the end. Like every time that Arya says she's the smartest person I've ever known, all that stuff, you're like, yes, she is, and it was so nice because she got the raw end of everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Through most of the story, she's fucked.
Yeah. Literally.
She's a whiny little child.
Yeah.
And that's why it was, again, it for her is also a bit of a story of redemption.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jaime and it was worth Jaime and Cersei dying together for that Tyrion scene.
That was a good scene.
It was a great scene. And him crying for for two horrible people.
Yeah, but they're still family.
They're still his family. Yeah. And just, and that, yeah. And as he just lifts the bricks it was a great scene.
When he went off by himself, I'm like, okay, here's where Bronn comes back in. Like that's what and I was like, with all that destruction, Bronn wouldn't have been anywhere near that.
No, he protects himself. Yep.
So I was like, okay, well, he won't be, because I was like, how great of a scene could that have been, like at some point, but the way it ended up way better, because the way I was seeing is as he's walking through the rubble, Bronn kind of, just pops out around a corner and, I'm here to collect my debt kind of a scenario, but dude, how, man, did it, you talk, the first time in the whole show's run that it wrenched my heart was when Drogon nudges Daenerys. Goes, holy shit, like mom.
Yeah.
Because it was
forget
so
that
Simba.
It's the child. Yes.
Yeah. It was so Simba. Dad.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh no. Like, no, your eyes are watering, but it's weird. I was reading something earlier today. And I kind of got into I really try not to do this, but I got into an argument with somebody on Facebook about this. Because they were talking about how shitty it was the way Daenerys died. And I'm like, no, it's perfect. I said, explain this to me. Yeah. She's the queen, correct? Who is close enough to the queen that could get past
a dragon,
Grey Worm, and a dragon.
And a dragon. Yes.
And not have a guard in the room with her.
Yes.
There's only one person.
Yes.
Because Grey Worm might or might not get past Drogon. Jon Snow definitely would. Because when he wakes up, by the way, when he woke up and he was covered in snow, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, totally. I just thought it was rubble and all of a sudden it moved and I'm like, oh shit.
I was like, oh shit, all right. But when he sniffs him, I was like, oh man. I was like, and that's when it clicked in my head. Because in my head, I was like, he's going to kill her. Because he's the only one who could get by Drogon.
Yep.
because he's friendly. And as soon as he gets past Drogon, the very first thought I had after that was when the next scene when it shows him walking in the hall or whatever, and I see his sword, and I'm like, how the fuck is he in the private chambers of the queen or in the throne room by herself with his weapons? You know, because and then it's like it's Jon Snow.
Exactly, he's the only one.
Yep. Because think about it, like you would never expect Jon Snow to kill someone like that, not someone he swore allegiance to. That doesn't fit, you know. But the knife thing makes sense because the only way, you know, again, he had to be able to kill her in a way that Drogon wasn't going to. That she could in no way call Drogon or anything like. It had to be sneaky. It just had to be. And it makes the most sense. Like, what the hell did you think he was going to do? Get into a firefight with her, or swing a sword, or you know, like what the hell did you think was going to happen? You know, it's like I think all of the way the people died or their endings, I think they fit the characters. I really do. The only one I really have an issue with was Cersei, but again, it's when you look at the bigger story, Cersei's it's fine. Because really, it was more about Jaime in that moment than it was her.
Yeah,
you know? Yeah. And again, that gave us that Tyrion scene, which is fucking great.
It was a great scene, yeah. And when Drogon comes in, because that's the thing is that it's more than just, to me, it's more than just that Jon was friendly. Jon is family.
Yeah, that's essentially. I was meaning like Jon's okay. Like he's not going to be like, you know, like
Jon is a, you know, he's of that family. He's of fire. You know, that's who he is. Even though that's not who he grew up as, but basically genetically he's a dragon rider. Right. And so when Drogon basically just looks at him and looks at the body and just takes a big breath and just blasts to the side, I was like, that is so awesome.
Yeah. When I saw the fire forming in his throat, I'm like, are they really going to have him? Because in my head, I'm going, like, I was kind of hoping that the way that like Daenerys would go out at that moment was like when you hear the knife go in, I was like, oh man, how crazy would it be if they stabbed each other?
Yes.
You know, like, holy shit, they both had the same idea, you know, type of thing. But, you know, when he goes to breathe, I was, you know, kind of like, are they going to do a Jon stands through the fire moment? Like, that
would have been interesting.
And when it was off the side, I was like, okay. As soon as he did it off to the side, I was like, that throne's getting melted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as soon as I saw, and then when he did melt the throne, I was like, yes, because that's truly, and that's what, you know, they talk about. That's what she wanted to do. She wanted to break the wheel.
Yeah.
And that was the wheel.
Yeah, I agree. And I love the fact that he picks her up and flies off.
Yes.
I like that.
I love that he's out there.
Yeah.
You know, and that he's always going to be out there.
Yep. That's an interesting, well, you know, who knows? I mean, it's probably never going to be anything, but you know, if they ever do revisit down the road, that adds a whole new cool element that's just out there. Yep. There's a dragon with no Targaryen.
Yes, exactly.
Like the only Targaryen essentially is Jon, right?
Yeah, or whatever Bran can do, which I thought was a great line. Has anybody, you know, is there any you know sighting of Drogon or whatever? You know, rumor has him to the east. You know, and is, you know, maybe I can take care of that. You know, he can literally go and take over Drogon.
Yeah. That's nuts. That was pretty cool.
He's a what do they call skinwalker, whatever they called them.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
they don't. So they in the books they really go into that power because
they didn't really push that in the show.
All the kids have it. Yeah. And so then of course there's the one wildling that had it too. But that's where that battle occurred is because Jon had the power too, and so did the wildling, and at any rate, they never really dive into that at all.
Right. Yeah, because on the show for a while, I thought Bran basically, when he went into his thing, I thought he was just essentially seeing what the crow or the raven saw. That's what I thought he was doing. That's it. I didn't realize what was actually happening until I read somebody made a comment about that he was doing that. And I was like, oh, that makes way more sense. And that's way cooler.
Yeah, exactly. Way cooler.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah. So what did you think about him being named king?
I was like, well, that's that. It when his name was mentioned, I was like, well, that makes perfect sense. It couldn't go to. It didn't matter who you wanted to be king, or queen, or whatever it was. It had to be somebody where there was no history.
Yep.
I mean, it had to. You couldn't.
And like I said, you had somebody who wasn't drunk on power.
Yeah.
You have somebody who can't have kids, like Tyrion said, which I thought was really a great, point.
Yeah.
Was like, and I love how he even takes a stab at himself in that same breath. Like basically, we know what kind of assholes king's sons can be.
Yeah. Basically, yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was really good. I had no issue with it. Like I had that quick second of thought where I thought maybe he might say Samwell, but then, as he kept talking, it's like Bran makes sense. Like if you really look at the characters that were in the running, Bran is the one that makes the most sense, because Jon was never going to be that guy.
Yeah.
It was not him from minute one of the show. Anytime royalty or whatever, even when he went to the Night's Watch,
remember, right. He was always uncomfortable. Yeah.
He never wanted to be the leader.
Yeah.
He just did it because it needed to be done. Yeah. And that's why I liked so much that at the end, he just went back to being also how I loved so much that in the last scenes, he didn't have his hair tied up.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And his hair back down like he did the original season and stuff. And also like when people were like,
Ghost.
He finally acknowledged Ghost. I was like, yeah, because he's no longer a Targaryen.
Yep, exactly.
Like, he realized that he's a Stark.
And
starts in the north. And that's why Ghost was, that's why when he saw him, they had that moment.
Yeah.
And people kept missing that. It's like, you forget, like at one point he's becoming more and more Targaryen. He's riding dragons. He's doing that. He's becoming showing that side of him. But then as it goes on, and he even says, which I loved, when he made that comment about, what was it? I can't remember who he was talking about, but when he makes that comment that basically like, it was about Daenerys when he was talking with Tyrion, when he was like, basically like, just because you're born that way, it doesn't mean that is who you are. And I was like, right there, I was like, that's the moment when he went back to being a Stark, basically. Yeah. Because from that point forward, he's, because Ned Stark would have done the same thing. He would have killed her, regardless of the consequences, because it was the right thing to do, And so, I thought from a storyline point, I thought they tied up everybody pretty well. It wasn't necessarily there wasn't a lot of bang for your buck in this episode for sure, but
I mean,
this was essentially epilogue.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. It was epilogue. And where Arya ends up, perfect.
I love that. Because just like Drogon, she's out there.
Yeah.
She's doing what she does.
Yeah. And I love the acknowledgement of all the other kingdoms, including, from the South and everything like that, the ones that we haven't heard from. And the best line was ever, "Uncle, sit down."
Yeah, I love when he looks back at her and she just like gives him that like, I said, sit your ass down. Look,
yeah, exactly. Like do it.
Come on now.
Yeah, and because he used to think he was somebody. Well, he actually kind of was somebody at some point.
He was, yeah. But I mean, when he starts his credentials, it's like this guy's pretty qualified. Actually, I mean, he does.
But the kids are in charge now, and I just love it. Everyone just starts snickering.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was. That cracked me up, and
So that was all the good stuff in there.
Yeah, I love that. Tyrion ends up as Hand again. Because that is the perfect place for Tyrion.
It really
he belongs nowhere else. Like the whole time he was talking, I was kind of running that through my head because it's like, what's gonna, I'm trying to just what's gonna happen to him, kind of a thing. because it's like there's no way they kill Tyrion. Not after that speech. You're not killing a character after that.
That gives that speech, yeah. And the whole, when Bran just says, that this is his punishment. He doesn't, and he'll be making. It was perfect. And then I just love that when will you take the position? He's like, well, why do you think I came down here? And it's like, oh yeah, Bran sees everything in the past, the present, and the future. He knew what was going to happen.
Right, exactly. Which honestly is an interesting situation to put someone like that in a king position.
Yes.
Because he now wields a lot of power. So I was like, when I'm reading that in my head, I'm immediately going, "Ooh, the heel turn's going to be amazing," because wrestling brain.
Yeah, that's
it
funny.
would be though, wouldn't it? Like he can see what's coming. Holy shit! Like how do you stop a guy like that?
Well, and that's a part where there might be some details and stuff he doesn't see, but the truth of the matter is he does see. He can see what's going on everywhere, where the realm is heading, and then it's just a matter of, can he actually make corrections for it, or can he just work with it and ready everyone? Basically, all that Bran has done up till now is ready everybody for what was inevitable.
Yeah,
like it was going to happen no matter what you did.
Well, here's something really funny. So last night I told you there was a WWE pay-per-view and Game of Thrones finale, right? And I saw somebody griping today about how basically all Bran has done is sit around, and then in the end he's the king, right? Well, in WWE they have what's called a Money in the Bank contract, which is a ladder match where they hang a briefcase up in the air.
Okay, yeah, I remember that. Yep.
Okay, so that match was last night. It was the main event was the men's match. They had started the night off with the women's one. They end with the men. And during these guys are beating the shit out of each other on these ladders and wrecking. Just giving it all they have, right? And then all of a sudden you hear Brock Lesnar's music. He comes out, basically throws one dude, climbs the ladder and grabs a briefcase, and he wins. So I laughed so hard because people were bitching about how Bran did nothing, but then just won, basically. And Brock Lesnar did the exact same thing. He literally did nothing except climb a ladder, basically, and he's the guy now. But I was I loved the conversation with with them talking about how the brothels were all destroyed.
Yes, yeah.
Oh God, that was good. I love the I'm sure the I forgot what it was that Davos wanted. Like as soon as the ships, when he's like the fleet's more important, it's like that may be a bad an uninformed opinion.
and then the Archmeister doesn't want to put what do you really know? And one time I brought a honeycomb and a donkey into a something like that.
Yeah. When he says that, I'm like, I want to hear this story.
Exactly. What happened with the donkey and the honeycomb in the brothel?
Yeah, that was one of my favorite scenes, I think, of the whole series, because it was finally showing that, like, all the tension of all the rest of it, was finally gone.
Yeah,
that it was like, okay, now we can, we can actually live now. We're not at each other's throats, and even though they were, but it was in a jest,
It's just so funny how they were still themselves. It was just great. They weren't. They hadn't advanced to becoming anybody and
especially Bronn. I love how Bronn is still Bronn. Because I was like, oh, he's got a title now and la-di-da, but no, same guy.
No, exactly. And
I love how when they said that with the brothel about how it was destroyed, and he was immediately like, "Oh, we'd be willing to."
The minister of coin would be more than happy to fund the rebuilding of the brothels. Where before I was like, "Well, we need to make sure if we have enough money for those ships." And then have you seen Sam in the Maester's garb?
Cool.
Was great.
And I like the little throw in that I think everybody saw coming when the other Maester or Archmaester or whatever told him about the name of the book. and he said something about like the title not being good, and then when he was like A Song of Ice and Fire, and I helped him with the title, and it was like because I had read a long time ago that George R.R. Martin basically saw himself as Samwell.
Okay.
Essentially, so
sense.
if you see Samwell as the storyteller, when I read that, and then like that's why I thought of Samwell when Tyrion's talking about stories, because I was like, oh, I could see that because George R.R. Martin is the storyteller, but I was like, it seems really self-serving if he were to put Samwell as king. So, you know what? One of the things that threw me off for a second was when they were about to vote on Bran. Bran. Oh,
Bran. Yeah.
I knew which one I meant. Excuse me. When Tyrion started off by saying "I," and I'm like, "The hell's he saying I for?" And then it hit me that Lannisters. Yeah, I totally because I'm like, he's nobody now. He's not the hand. He's not. And I was like, oh yeah, duh, Lannister.
He's still Lannister. Yeah, that's why he was there to begin with. Yeah.
So yeah, that cracked me up. That I completely. It completely he was so removed from the Lannisters in a lot of ways,
He totally was, yeah.
But he was the only one left. So.
Yep. There was some great scenes. Yeah, and that what else? When they were around the table, at the end. We'll work on that. We'll get that better. I'm sure you will.
Yeah.
Brienne finishing Jaime's story.
That was awesome. The way she ended it with the, he died.
He died for his queen.
That was really good. Because the whole time she's writing, and they kept showing a little, and then I'm like, I want to see what she's writing.
Exactly, yeah.
And I'm like, and it's like, well, clearly that stuff's not important. That's just,
I kept rewinding and pausing.
I did that too, yeah. And then when she stops, and I was like, oh, she's at the end. Yeah. Like, how do I want it? The last thing about him to be. And when I read it, I was like, that's perfect.
Yeah, and what's great, it's the
not
truth.
True.
Yeah, exactly. It's the truth. And she has every reason to, he died with his, the mother of his children, his sister. You could just be all sorts of salacious with it, but she's a knight.
Yeah.
And she saw him for who he was on the inside.
Right.
Which is really, and the fact that they'd hooked up is even better. Can't wait to see what happens with that in the books.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I thought that scene was really good with her because I was wondering how they were going to wrap her story up because I really didn't know where, although in fairness, when they were sitting at the table and they were like, oh, well, we need, or when Bran was like, we need this and this and this still, So I'm like, the best way in my head they could have wrapped her story up was basically to put her in charge of the troops. Here, you're now the war minister or general or whatever the hell they called it. I was kind of expecting that to come, but, I was fine with how they ended it because they showed her the way they showed her was the most honorable thing they could have shown her doing, which was, like you said, respecting the fact that, she saw the side of him that she saw instead of putting he was a piece of shit. I wouldn't wipe my ass with him. Damn.
The fact of the matter is that he made her a knight.
Yeah.
It's
true.
That's it. And I just loved seeing Podrick finally, a knight.
That was cool too. Yeah.
And because there was always, because before there was always the King's Guard, and there was, I can't remember. It's been a while now since I remember in the books, but you had the King's Guard, which were the golden. God, I can't remember what they were called now. They had a name.
Golden Company, I think it was.
No, that's the ones that are for sale. But they had a.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
They had the golden shield or something like that. But that was who Jaime was.
Right.
Yeah, it was. It was. I was glued to it. I watched every minute of it. It did what it needed to do, and that's that. You know?
Yeah.
And I can't wait to read it.
That was the thing is like, you know, afterwards and then today I was like, God, there is so much hate on this. Yeah. And it's like, I think a lot of it just comes down to, it's like everybody's got a favorite character. Somebody was their ride or die in that show. And if they didn't get the grand ending that you thought they did, I think people got pissed. Yeah. And it's like, I get people being mad at the pacing of the final season.
Oh yeah. What are you going to do? Yeah.
I said on the podcast, after I read that post, I was like, this guy makes a lot of really good points.
Yeah.
George R.R. Martin, they had even kind of said before this season that they were kind of running out of ideas for what to do for this, you know, because they were already past his books. He had the end plotted, but that's it. Yeah. You know, he didn't write the other stuff. So, you know, or at least ready to release to the public kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I just, you know, like I was telling one guy, I was like, I think the big problem is this became such a phenomenon that you can't end it. It's really not, you can't. It's very hard to end a big TV show to where people walk away going, yep, Breaking Bad did it because the ending of that show was perfect for that show. 6 Feet Under was amazing. I don't know if you ever saw that one.
I never did. No.
The final episodes of that show were fucking amazing. It's maybe my favorite finale of any show. But, you know, it's like, there's like, look at Seinfeld. Look how many people were pissed about how Seinfeld ended. And it was such a Seinfeld ending. It was such a Seinfeld ending.
Yeah.
But people were furious. Didn't end the way they wanted it to end.
It's true.
And the thing, I don't think most people really know. Like with this, it's like, okay, what would make you happy?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Daenerys lives. Okay, well, the way her character's going, she's going to become a tyrant. So, okay, Jon Snow's not going to stand by her side. That's not who he is. You know, I mean, he is, but not at this point. That had flipped.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I think if you really start looking at this, if it starts working out differently, I don't think it works. I think for a TV show, this was a perfect ending.
Yeah.
Or, you know, was appropriate. Whether or not you want to call it good, I think it was a very appropriate ending.
Yeah.
You know?
I think you're right. Yeah. And that's
what, like, if this was a movie, you'd be fine with that ending.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, you wouldn't complain about it. You wouldn't. Yeah.
All the good guys got stuff.
Yeah.
Jon Snow suffers, which is what Jon Snow has done the whole series.
He's always brooded and suffered. It's true.
Yep. So, you know, that's why I said, I was like, I think all the deaths were appropriate. But yeah, I'm going to talk about this on Salty Language because there's just so much fan hate going around for stuff. Like I saw so much backlash on Endgame and stuff like that after it came out. Like people were talking about how great it was, but then there's all these other people who are like, it was terrible. They wasted these 10 years and, you know. So, actually, can you hold on a minute?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Ooh. I was going to wet myself. No. It's just so strange to me how stuff that it's almost like if you take anything in fandom now, and if it lasts more than a couple of years, people are starting to turn on it. Like Game of Thrones, I saw people even posting that was like, "Oh, I wasted the last blah blah of my life." I'm like, "No, you didn't. You were entertained the whole fucking time."
Yeah, that's bullshit.
That's on you.
Yeah, and that's the thing with it. Yeah, like I said, it's like go fucking read the book.
Yeah, you're right. That was last night. I was talking with somebody about the ending, and I was like, the cool part is, the show's over. I was like, but now I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to dig into the books now because I've not read them. I wanted to wait until the end of the show because I knew there was an end point for the show. So I was like, I'm going to wait till then I'll go back and read the books.
Yep.
And the person I was talking with last night, she said the same thing. She was like, I actually just downloaded them for, my Kindle. And I was like, I was like, see, that's what you should have.
Yeah. That's it.
It isn't like Dexter or The Sopranos where that I understand people getting pissed about. Dexter was a weird ending and The Sopranos was, I don't know, it was either genius or terrible. I'm not sure which it was. So You know, like, I don't know. It was one or the other. Maybe both. I don't know. So, yeah.